Hi, this is Bruce Lindsay, working with Elizabeth Gallo on our continuing project to document the stories of veterans. Today we are with retired Marine Corps First Sergeant Mark Wheatley. I served with Mark at Marine Corps Recruit Depot, San Diego, while he was a drill instructor, chief drill instructor, and operations chief.
So my name is Mark Wheatley, retired as a Marine First Sergeant. Was in from 1975 to 93 on the active, and then I retired from the reserves. Did 6 more years in the reserves in 1999. Went through boot camp at San Diego. There were some interesting times back then. I don't like to compare boot camps because I'd stand side by side with any young Marine out there now. I guarantee you. They're all soft. They use ACOGs. Bullshit. They're freaking Marines. Have you not been watching what they did the last 15 years? Huh? So anyways, went through boot camp, San Diego. It was still 13 weeks back then. I think the best story I could tell you about why I joined. My cousin was about 3 years older than me, and my cousin, we decided, we were in Indiana at the time. I got kidnapped, taken to Indiana by my parents, my step-parents, actually, my stepmom and my dad. Her parents' family was from Indiana, so we ended up moving there. Anyways, after about 7 or 8 years, I was a senior in high school. My cousin came out to visit. He was like a brother. We decided to go check out the recruiters. We went to the Navy. No way. It's not going to happen. Went to the Army. His feet were up on his desk, and I don't have anything against the Army. I love them. I've trained with them, worked with them. The funny thing is, the Air Force. My dad was in the Air Force. 3 of my uncles were in the Air Force. His dad was in the Air Force. No. We walked in, and you know what it was? Air Force was at lunch, because we were going to look at them. The Air Force was at lunch. So we went down to Marine Gunnery Sergeant was there, started talking to him, and this might be the ticket. And then we started going back and forth, and I signed a delay entry in April, went in August. And the funny thing is, my cousin and I wanted guaranteed PFC, because we were both high school graduates. That was the thing back then. So we thought we can get PFC out of this upon graduation. And then we wanted to be buddies in boot camp. And then also, we wanted to be recon, believe it or not. We didn't know. There's no such thing as contract recon. It doesn't happen. Skipper knows that. You don't go contract recon. You have to be in there for a while and show that you have ability. We didn't know that. So just before we ship, we go and say, hey, are we set up? He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, look on the board. You got your MOS. That's 9,900. That's contract recon. Oh, cool. 9,900 is basic recruit. We didn't know that. All right. 9,900 is basic recruit, and that's all we were. We get to the AFES, and there's a master sergeant giving us a brief. I'm telling this because it's pretty funny. He's giving us a brief. He says, if you were guaranteed anything, it'll be in block 25. And so PFC, whatever you're guaranteed is going to be in there. Both of us looked down and said none. Not PFC, no guarantee we were going to train together, and definitely not recon. So, like idiots, we raised our hand. Excuse us, Master Sergeant. We were told that we had contract PFC and contract recon. He goes, all right, you're not, so ship out. Anyways, it's about 2 days later, and we all get our haircuts. We've been there about 2 days. We just got picked up by the regular platoon, and we're in line, and being Wheatley, I'm towards the end of the line, and one of the drill instructors comes up, and he stops, and he looks at me and goes, what's your name? Sir, Recruit Wheatley, sir. He goes, ha, Wheatley, yeah, I heard about you. It's like, what? I've been here a day and a half, and you've heard about me? He goes, yeah, we're going to take real good care of you. And then I knew we were in trouble when he went up about, 20 names, and there's my cousin. And he stops right in front of me. He says, what's your name? Fitzgerald goes, yeah, we heard about you too. I knew we were in trouble. I ended up getting dropped at the end of first phase. He got dropped, I think, about a week later. And nobody gets dropped during grass week, by the way, but he did. We ended up graduating together. After it was over with, and we both graduated at the same time, because we ended up being dropped. Not the same platoon, but we graduated about the same time. We flew home and went back to Indiana, And we went over to see a recruiter, went to his office. We walked in, he's sitting at his desk. He's got a cup of coffee. He goes, "Hey, Marines, how you doing?" Wheatley said, "Yeah, right." I said, "Let's go get a couple shots of whiskey. What are you going to do? It's already over with. You're going to beat up a gunnery sergeant and go to prison?" So, yeah. He goes, "How was it?" Gunny, give me a break. So that's always been one of my favorite stories about boot camp. By the way, 75, we were still getting punched around a little bit, moved around. I know one kid that got punched in the Adam's apple 4 times in a row. Came up to me. We were up at School of Infantry back then, the 1 week package where you go in the field, and the drill instructor comes up and he goes, "We're spit shining boots because we have a little time until we're going back out. Does this look spit shine to you, recruit?" "Sir, yes, sir." He goes, "Pow!" I fall back. Yeah, he goes, "It's not." He takes my left boot. He goes, "Does this look spit shine to you?" "Sir, no, sir." Pow! "You're right." So it happened. We had a Private Wygant. His girlfriend thought she would do something nice, and she called him General on his letter. Skipper's already laughing. Bruce is already laughing. On his letter, it said General Wygant. So the drill instructor handed out the mail and said, "Oh, we got a general with us now. Oh, that's just great. Come here, General." Then he gets in front and goes, "Sir, request permission to punch you in the throat, sir." And he did. He got him in the throat. And Wygant, he had a tough, it was about 6 weeks left. He had a tough 6 weeks. So, those things happen. And you know what? I would buy any one of I can tell you, what is this? 75, so 25. This is 49 years later, and I could tell you the names of every one of my drill instructors, and I could tell their voices, and they probably look older. Staff Sergeant Prevost, Sergeant Conkright, Sergeant Cadell. I could even tell you a drill instructor we had for a week. He was only there a week, and that was Sergeant Germain. So, and I guarantee you almost everybody that's there. That's why you can always tell if somebody was in the Marine Corps or not. First question you ask them, name me one of your drill instructors. If anybody goes, really don't remember them. Yeah, bullshit. You weren't in the freaking Marines, buddy. There's no way you were in the Marines. There is no way you were in the Marine Corps. So anyways, it's kind of ironic. We both wanted the Force Recon, and we both ended up at administration for 3 years. That was my first part of it. I didn't like it, but you go where the Marine Corps tells you. And after that, I left Yuma, Arizona, went overseas to Iwakuni. And while I was there, I got a chance to go forward with 3rd MAB. They were called MEBs. I think the MEBs are even gone now. Marine Expeditionary Brigade. Back then they were called MABs, Marine Amphibious Brigade. Anyways, we went forward to South Korea. And I'm not talking what was it? Team Spirit. Team Spirit, right? Yeah. This isn't Team Spirit. We were on the DMZ. 2 miles, maybe 3, because in a little town called Uncheon. And that's one of the main invasion routes. Well, while we were there, we got 1 day of liberty. We were there 3 months, I think, and we were trading we had, on our right was a ROC Army Brigade, and on our left was a ROC company, I think, of Marines. Just trading together, doing the job. And while we were there, the president of South Korea was assassinated. That was, South Korea. And we're in the main invasion route with 5,000 Marines. I mean, we were going to be a bump in the road. Because I was an acting first sergeant as a sergeant, I actually saw some of the message traffic. There was close to 300,000 North Koreans poised about 10 miles from us, if that. To this day, I'm pretty much convinced the only thing that kept them from coming down, 2 things. One is they put, the only thing Jimmy Carter ever did right, he put the 7th Fleet off the coast. That slowed them down because they didn't want to deal with that. And the other thing is they found out that the South Korean president was assassinated by one of his own generals. And the one day I was on liberty, we heard gunfire all over the place because they were fighting the general and his troops. So that was interesting. Did that, and then went to Marine Corps Admin Detachment, Defense Language Institute, Monterey was the NCOIC there. I don't know, 2 or 3 years. That was a good job. I got to do a lot of funerals and represent the Marine Corps on a lot of special occasions. And actually, while I was there, I was the NCOIC. I didn't take a language. Don't ask me to speak any languages. My wife was a Chinese Mandarin linguist in the Navy. That's where I met her. And what I get, what's that? Anyways,
your coverage with that one.
I was above my rank structure on that one. She was only an E3 and I was an E6, so it worked. I went to the major and said, "Is there any problem with this?" He goes, "As long as you're not dating any of my Marines, you're fine." So what I got to tell, this is kind of we did more than one funeral. Two things I got to tell you about. I did more than one. Funerals are hard because there wasn't anything going on, so this wasn't time of war. Did two of them. One of them, the kid died at Camp Pendleton in training, and I'll talk about that a little bit later too. He died in training, and there was a corporal. We had to do his funeral. Another staff sergeant got killed in an automobile accident. The thing that's noteworthy about his funeral, you all know we have a flag on the coffin, and he had come to me about 2 weeks prior. He hated his wife. He was getting ready to get a divorce. That day, I told him, go get right now. Come into this office, get your SGLI changed right now. He goes, I got to get to class. Well, 2 weeks later, he was dead. Guess who got everything? His wife. And because he didn't change anything, guess who was supposed to get the American flag draped over his coffin? His wife. She hated his parents. They hated her. All right. And I went to her. I said, look, his parents are going to be here. Is it okay with you if I put 2 flags on the coffin? The first one I'll have folded and give to you, and I'm gonna do another one for the parents. And she goes, you do that, and I'll report you. She goes, you do that. That's how much they hated her. Well, guess what? What I did was once the memorial service was over, everybody's heading out to the gravesite. I had my detail of Marines put another flag. That's what I did. Yeah, another flag on the coffin. We folded it up. I kind of hid it. After everything was over, I walked over and gave it to her parents. That was a tough one. Then, about 6 months later, I had we did an Air Force funeral because we did everybody. You don't just who's available to help out. So it was an Air Force funeral, the 80s, 85. I think he was probably a World War II vet. Pretty sure he was a World War II vet. And went over and we did the color guard and everything else. And just as I'm presenting the flag to her, because Monterey had a big airport, they had 747s, 737s at least, 707s. Anyways, just as I was handing her the flag, here comes a friggin' jet flying over. Not a fighter jet, but an aircraft. Afterwards, she goes, Staff Sergeant Wheatley, how did you arrange that airplane? Ma'am, I didn't. I'd like to take credit for that, but I didn't. So that was a good 3 years, best 3 years of my life, because I met my wife there. She was Chinese Mandarin. Moved on from there, and then eventually put in for the drill field as a drill instructor. Actually, a little bit older. A lot of people don't understand that. They think drill instructors are way older than them. Most of the drill instructors down there are sergeants and young staff sergeants. They're maybe 5 or 6 years older than you. They're in their mid-20s a lot of times, maybe 22, 23, 24. A lot of people don't realize that. They've gone through the Marine Corps and they've gone through training, so they know what they're doing. I didn't go through until age 30. I remember my dad had a bet with a guy because his son had gone through 25 or so, where my dad was an electrician. He went through and he didn't make it. Now, I had 105 in my class start and 45 of us graduated. So he didn't make it. So my dad told him, yeah, my son's there now, going through the high school. He goes, oh, really? He ain't going to make it. How old is he? 30? Oh, he ain't going to make it. There's no way. I turned 30 in school because there's no way he's going to make it. All right. My dad bet him $50 and he won. My dad won. So that was cool. That was cool. I mean, my dad got $50, and I got to tell you, other than family history, of things that happened in my family in my life, the DI graduation was the most special moment I've ever had. At graduation, we got my mom, my stepmom, and my dad came up, and afterwards, when we were getting a cup of coffee or whatever, I looked over and I had never seen a tear in my dad's eye. And a couple of tears showed up. So that meant a lot. Just, that it meant that much to him. He was Air Force. He was a pilot in the Air Force. So I ended up going to the drill field and I did 2.5 cycles as a junior, 2 cycles as a senior, and 6 cycles, I'm going to say 6, as a chief drill instructor. My best were senior drill instructor. I got a couple good stories about that, but my best were senior drill instructors. I like being a junior, but the senior drill instructor, and I was never a daddy, by the way. I never, Captain knows what I'm talking about. They, a lot of the seniors think they need to play daddy. I wasn't a junior, but I'll give you an example. I always took duty the first, out of the first 4 days, I took duty the first, 2 nights out of the first 4. Because I had things I wanted to tell them. Well, I always sat mine down and told them, because this happens, by the way. I sat mine down and said, look, when we get towards first phase and final drill or big events, you're going to see, it doesn't happen often, but it happens. You're going to see platoons making phone calls. You're going to see platoons getting pizza. You're going to see, all kinds of ass-kissing stuff. And I said, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to kiss your ass. I'm not here to kiss your ass. I've already done my trophies back in 1975. This is your platoon. This is your success. So don't expect me to kiss your ass. Got that? Sir, yes, sir. So anyways, we trained, and I had a pretty, matter of fact, we lost company on our platoon by 1 event, but we came back. You do 2 weeks on the rifle range, 1 week grass, 1 week shooting. You do 1 week in the field, and then you do a week of service. I don't think they do service anymore, but mess duty and taking care of the base. You haven't drilled for a month for the most part, other than marching to and from. Sometimes it's not even your drill instructors. So myself and the juniors, we know that when we get out there and we're ready to get started, we got about 3 weeks till final drill, that when you march them right after service week, they ain't gonna be worth crap. We know it. We already know it. So anyways, I get out there and I get the platoon. The juniors bring them over. I get the platoon and I want to check them out. I already know what's going to happen. I'm just, ouch! Man, they were going everywhere. Feet are going everywhere. They're not aligned or anything. I just stop. So stop. Anyway, so we don't want to march. We don't care. Like I told you, I guess I need to be one of those senior drill instructors that kisses your ass. Well, guess what? I'm not. Well, you know what? I will. I need to kiss your ass. That's what it is. They all, sir, no, sir. I say, yeah, I understand. I need to kiss your ass. So, guide, we're right by the phones. Guide, 4, 3, 2, 1, phones, go. He's locked up. Sir, no, sir. I said, no, guide, get real seriously. You're going to go do phone calls. 4, 3, 2, 1, go. The whole platoon, sir, no, sir. You guys, you recruits disobeying a lawful order here? Sir, yes, sir. I mean, Captain knows there's no way. It all depends how you train them. So anyways, I stood there and I said, okay, fine. We'll try this again. And you better be clicking 1054 or whatever it was. I said, you better be clicking or I'm going to make you make phone calls. Sir, yes, sir. And I gave him, our word, ouch, more, boom, boom. They look like 8th and I. I'm serious. And we actually finished second in the company on drill. But I was never one that felt you need to. Captain knows what I'm talking about. But a lot of seniors felt like they had to be, downplay it a little bit. And I was not a junior, but I was not a kiss ass senior. So that was always a good one. Another one that happened. Some of my best memories are drill field, 100-hour weeks, but drill field. Another one was. What was his name? Jackson and Thibodeau. I'm on duty. It's like 3 days into training, maybe 2 days into training, and I hear a knock on my hatch. Sir, Private Jackson, permission request. You just shut up and get in here. It's quiet time. I'm not even supposed to talk to him. He comes in and goes, sir, this private just thought the senior drill instructor should know that Private Thibodeau called this private the N-word. I won't use it, but you know what I'm saying. Called this private the N-word. What? Get out of here, Jackson. And I go and I yell, Private Thibodeau! And of course, the platoon responds, and here comes Thibodeau. And by the way, on my desk, I've got a cup of coffee. I've taken my campaign cover off. I've got my dinner. There's stuff on my desk, paperwork. And, sir, Private Thibodeau reporters, get in here. And he gets in front of my desk, and I think he knows what's going on. He's about 5 feet away. I said, no, you're going to get closer, closer, closer. He gets right in front of my desk. I said, did you call Private Jackson the N-word? I used the real word. Did you call Private Jackson the N-word? Sir, yes, sir. And I'm not making this up. I took my desk and I threw it at him. My coffee cup went that way. My cover went that way. He's back against the wall thinking he's going to die. All right. A little background. Private Jackson was from New York City, and Private Thibodeau was a Cajun from Louisiana. They'd never, they didn't have a clue. So anyways, I took Thibodeau out, grabbed him by the collar, took him out. Not supposed to be out there, but I took him out. I said, where's your rack? Where's Jackson's rack? Over here. I said, get all your crap. You're moving over with Private Jackson. And in MCRD, we move about 4 times a cycle, up north and all kinds of stuff. And if we ever move, you're in the same rack together. You got that? Sir, sir, yes, sir. I said, when we do sit-ups, you're holding each other's feet. When we do pull-ups, you're going to count for each other. When we're doing prac, when we're doing knowledge, you're going to talk to each other. If I see you two away from each other at all, the next 3 months, I will drop you. Sir, yes, sir. I said, by the way, Thibodeau, you've got the top rack. Jackson gets the bottom rack. You're on the top rack. And I would go around, I told the juniors what I expected, and I'd walk around, and there'd be Thibodeau and Jackson doing their sit-ups and all this stuff. And I also told the juniors they're always sat next to each other. I did this a couple times. I'd walk up more towards the end. I'd walk up, I'd grab a piece of bread, I'd throw half to each side. All right? Yeah, I'd take the same piece of bread, I'd take a piece of bread off their tray and throw it down. So anyway, long story short, it's the night before graduation, because I always took duty the night before graduation. And I get, Private Jackson requests permission to speak to Senior Drill Instructor. Get in here, just shut up, get in here. He comes, of course they're Marines now, so I wasn't quite as hard. He comes in, he gets centered, and he goes, sir, this private just thought the Senior Drill Instructor would like to know that Private Thibodeau, this private doesn't think he's racist. He just doesn't know no better. I said, well, no shit, Jackson. I knew that 3 months ago. You had to find it out. So on graduation day after dismissed, I don't know if they walked around with each other, but right after graduation, they were talking to each other, both families. The old Cajun from Louisiana and the boy from New York City. The young kid, stocky guy, by the way, real stock, 5'6". Thibodeau was skinny, but he was up there and they were talking to each other. So I always heralded that, and I told other drill instructors about that. That's because Skipper knows we don't have time for that crap in the Marine Corps. We don't. Is it there? I'm sure it is. As a matter of fact, I remember one time when I was in Yuma, I was the wing NCO, the barracks NCO, and Sergeant Major was doing inspections. He was actually a first sergeant at the time, Sergeant Major selectee. You got to keep your drawers open, wall locker open, everything. He comes in, opens up a drawer, and there's white supremacy stuff, Nazi stuff, and everything else in two corporals' rooms. And these corporals were 2 of the best corporals in our unit. I guarantee you. 4949, probably even a 50. Sergeant, I went down, and they were mine, and he pulls them in the office. He goes, you got 2 choices. Here's your 2 choices. You either agree to a general discharge, or I'm going to court-martial you. You choose. They were gone. 2 weeks. Sergeant Major got rid of them because we don't have time for that crap. There is no time for that crap in the Marine Corps. There shouldn't be time for that anywhere. And I see people on social media saying the military is all racist nowadays. Well, who let that happen? Because we left it in pretty damn good shape. I'm pretty sure. I know I did. And matter of fact, that Sergeant Major, when he was a first sergeant, we had a racial incident. This is probably 1976, 77. I was a corporal. We had a racial incident, and first sergeant, he was first sergeant, then he was a selectee. His name was First Sergeant Harmon E. Nelson. I will never forget it. He became my mentor for everything I did from then on out. Whether it was sergeant, first sergeant, and the guy wasn't overpowering. He wasn't like Rambo or Bruce Willis. I mean, he had a big square jaw like Popeye. He wasn't that muscular. He was probably 6 foot tall, 170 pounds. It's just the way he carried himself. Boy, if he said something to you, you were listening. He called us all in the classroom, all the NCOs, corporals and sergeants. He goes, I can't remember what the incident was. It wasn't anything major. It's not like somebody got beat up, but somebody used a slur on the flight line or something. He goes, I'm here to tell you right now, this will not be tolerated in this unit or anywhere in the Marine Corps. And now understand, he's a white first sergeant from Tennessee. And he goes, if liking collard greens, chicken, and watermelon makes me black, I'm the sole first sergeant. I'm from Tennessee. I love that shit. So, of course, everybody laughed at that. But the funny thing was, the thing I took most from that, and I actually, this is 77, the thing I took most from that was he said 1970, this is 1977, which isn't that long after there was some pretty major race riots in the country. He goes, I'm going to tell you right now, everybody in this room, all of you, everybody, hates something about somebody. Some of you don't like people that wear glasses. Some of you don't like people that are tall, don't like people that are short, don't like people with brown eyes, don't like people with blue eyes. Some of you don't like white people, some of you don't like Hispanic, some of you don't like black. He goes, that's your business, and that's where it better stay. Don't you ever demonstrate that in the Marine Corps. Deal with it, forget it, and get rid of it. And I live that. I lived by that for the next 20 years, and I still do. Elizabeth was talking about trade shows. I did trade shows for 24 years, and sometimes they use some loose language, and I would stop them right there. So, don't do that around me. This is civilians. Don't do that around me, because of First Sergeant Harmon E. Nelson, not Harmony, Harmon E. Nelson. I remember the whole name. I remember the whole name. He's my mentor. He was the reason. If I would have ran into a tough ass colonel, I probably would have tried to go officer. But at that age, I was a corporal. From then on, all I wanted to do was be a first sergeant. Didn't want to be a gunny. Didn't want to be a master sergeant. Just wanted to be a first sergeant. That's all I wanted. So took that, and I used that, and that was the main thing. I used that with Private Jackson and Private Thibodeau. When I was down there, I got alligated on a couple times. Rat on you. I had one. His name was Private Gomes, Gomes. I called him Gomez, and he would get all puffy. And, sure, this private's name is Gomes, sir. I said, not anymore. It's not. For 3 months, it's Gomez. And it wasn't racial. It was just, I ain't friggin' playing with that shit. I said, no, it's not. It's Gomez. All right. If I can get punched in the neck, you can deal with your name. All right. So, anyways, I got alligated on that one, and had to answer to that. I didn't get in trouble, but I had to go see the battalion commander. Actually, I think that one went to a congressman. No, that was the other one. Anyways, the funny thing about him is about 6 months later, Captain remembers we were in Quonset huts. Bravo Company was in Quonset huts, like you saw with Gomer Pyle. Yes, we had those in the 80s too. I hear somebody knocking on my door at the Bravo Company headquarters. We just got back from PT or drill, and the door opens up. I said, get in here. And it's Gomes, Private Gomes. Comes in, he had been medically discharged. We recycled him, I think. And he got injured with us. He got medically discharged, and he's back. I said, what do you want, Gomes? Made a point of it. He goes, Gunnery Sergeant, I'm all healthy now. I got doctor's permission. I'm trying to get back in. Remember, this kid got me alligated. I had to go to the battalion commander and stand on the footsteps. All right, and he's sitting there asking. I said, "Okay, what do you want me to do about that?" He goes, "I need somebody to sign that I would be a good recruit." And I thought to myself, I said, "This guy's got balls. Give me the paper." Signed him off. Said, "Go. Good luck. Just don't come to Bravo Company because you're going to be Gomez again." So you're going to be Gomez again. Don't come to Bravo Company. So, anyways, he was on his way. Another one I liked, I like the good memories. Again, I take them on T1 so I could talk to them and get them set up. This is when I was a senior. Never did this kind of stuff as a junior. That's what seniors do. Had a kid come up, knock on the hatch, like 2 days into training, during quiet time again, and he goes, "Sir, this private like to talk to senior drill instructor, sir." Recruit, whatever it was back then. Everybody gets upset with that Urban Valor TV. I use the word private. I remember using the private. That was 40 freaking years ago. Grow up, people. All right. Social media. Anyways, he comes in. He goes, "Sir, this private would like to speak to senior drill instructor." I said, "What that?" And I went on. "What do you want?" "Sir, this private was just wondering why the senior drill instructor has to use the Lord's name in vain so much." Because at this point, I'm an agnostic. My wife, thank God, I became a Christian about 3 years later. And at that time, I was an agnostic. I wasn't stupid enough to be atheist, and I meant that atheist. I wasn't stupid enough to be atheist, but I was an agnostic. I probably wasn't much of a believer in Jesus Christ yet. Fortunately, that happened. Anyways, and boy, I just went off on him. Who are that? Blah, 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 blah. Blank, 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 blank. All kinds of freaking, I was cussing at him and scaring the hell out of him. So get out of my office. Just like I told Captain Lindsay, this is the truth. I never used the Lord's name in vain ever again from that day on. I didn't GD this. I didn't JC that. None of it. Matter of fact, when people do it around me when I was on the trade shows or even in the Marine Corps, they don't do that. What do you mean? Don't do that around me. I actually cringe. But it's funny I don't remember his name. But of course I didn't let him know that he did that. Matter of fact, the next day I put him in the classroom and cover your ears, Captain. Probably I teared him for about 45 minutes. We're only supposed to do 6. He was drenched. He was absolutely drenched when I got done. Who the hell, blah, 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 blah. And I continued to cuss. I cussed a lot, but I never, ever used the Lord's name in vain again. And I think he probably knows this. He knows it. But to me, I'll be honest with you, that is one of the biggest pair of balls in a recruit I've ever seen. To go to, most of them on T2, they're terrified. And he had, talk about standing up for your beliefs. He came in and went to a drill instructor and said, "Why do you need to do that?" And it worked. So I like that one. I think most people like that one when they hear it. I did, like I said, 6 cycles. Then I went up to Battalion S3. Actually, could have had it. I was going to have a job as a instructor at DI school, which is very prestigious, by the way. I had that pretty much locked on. I got other stories about that, but I was pretty much locked on. And actually, AMOI at Penn State, I'd made a phone interview, and I was thinking about going there, AMOI at Penn State, because my wife's from Pennsylvania. So I was gonna look at going there, and all of a sudden, I've done 10 cycles in the trenches, which normally you do 5. Maybe I did 4 years straight. My last 6 or 8 months was at Battalion S3. Battalion Commander, Lieutenant Colonel Castner, and I love him. He's a great man. Good colonel. Calls me in his office. He goes, because I had been promoted to gunny. Because I know you would, because the battalion drill master was opening up too. He goes, I know you want to be battalion drill master. I know you want to go to DI school. He goes, but I need you at the Battalion S3. What? Any working drill instructor, if you said Battalion S3, it's like, what? It's not that we didn't have respect for them. That just isn't that wasn't what you wished for. And he goes, I want to put you in the Battalion S3. I got some missions I want completed. I think you're the only one that can do it. He goes, suck it up. Because when I was in Vietnam in 1970, I was a rifle platoon commander, and the operations sections up at division wanted me, and I had to go. And of course, I didn't want to go. He goes, suck it up. He goes, I got things I want you to do, and you're the one that's going to do it. We used to have like hot scoops at the company level. We never did it I still don't know who the Battalion S3 ops chief was when I was there. But anyways, I got direction from him, and I was putting out information he wanted, and the CDIs were listening to me, probably because I was a 6-cycle CDI. But I didn't get battalion drill master, and I worked with Gunny Drake and Gunny Atondo were the drill masters while I was there. And I'll give you an example. You can make a difference, even if you don't like the job. When I got up to Battalion S3, you have in the Marine Corps called grad holes. You don't get them too often, but it's somebody that twists their ankle a week before graduation, maybe 2 weeks. A lot of different things happen. Maybe breaks their wrist, falls off the confidence course or something. Anyways, they get injured. And it's up to the senior drill instructor in the company whether or not they want to continue and just let them graduate, or whether they want to drop them and put them back. And some of them, the good ones, the ones that, let's say they had a 290 on the initial first phase PFT, they were doing great on prac, you're going to keep them. They don't, they've done it. They've done everything they need to do. They won't make final drill. But when I got to Battalion S3, there was and I asked you, Captain, I'm not sure how many it was, but I know there was at least 15 up there. I'm thinking more. But let's say there was 15 grad holds when I got up the battalion. And grad holds, all they did was they came in at 7:30 in the morning and they went home at 16:30 at night. My second day there, let's say there was 15. I think there was more. Actually, one of them was one of mine I checked with him about this. He remembers this. So it's true. Private Franklin. I think the second day I pulled them, they came in at 7:30. I said, what time are you all supposed to be getting here? 7:30, Gunny. That changes today. From now on, Monday through Saturday, you're here at 6:06 in the morning, and you go home at 17:30. And their eyeballs got about as big as you can imagine. They're used to skating. So then I also said today, every one of you is going to sick bay. I don't want a chit. Don't you come back with a chit that tells me what you can't do. I want a chit that tells me what you can do. And starting tomorrow, I'm going to have somebody take you over to the gym. You're going to go to the gym for 1 hour every day in the morning and 1 hour every night in the evening. And you're going to work on whatever you can fix. And I looked them square in the eyes and said, you're fucking Marines. You're not grad holes. Start acting like it. Get your asses out of here. Get into the fleet where the reason you came here. Well, I think it was about a month. I know 2 months later I was down to one grad hold. I think about a month later, I think I got rid of almost all of them. And that really pissed the permanent personnel off at the battalion because, they're clerks. And I would stand there and watch them for a day or two. You had grad holds who would sit on a bench and do whatever the Marines wanted them to do, the permanent personnel. And I would hear, grad hold, copies. Admin clerk saying, give me 5 copies. And the freaking copier is not even 10 feet from this PFC. Give me 10 copies. All right, so, 2 grad holds, go clean up the head. 3 grad holds, get some lawnmower, go move out front. So finally, after 2 days, and I found out what they were, I said, first off, they're here at 06 every morning, and I'm going to have one of you come in and do the muster. I told the permanent personnel. And then I told them, guess what? Next time you call anybody a grad hole, you're going to give me 20 push-ups right now. I don't care who you are. They are not grad holes. If you need them, you say Marine or PFC or private. That was it. Do not call them. If I see, and there a couple of days, I had some people doing push-ups because they weren't listening. Also told them, I said, don't mow your yard. But when it comes time to field day every Thursday in the battalion, you're doing the field day. They'll keep it clean, but you're doing the field day, not them. They're not here to be your maids. So anyways, that worked. I thought it worked pretty good. I actually lived by that also. Anytime I had injuries, I've had back, shoulder, wrist, knee. I would just work everything else because it also speeds up the healing on anything that's injured too. So that was, and I really enjoyed my time. Believe it or not, I enjoyed working with Captain Lindsay. Like I said, the battalion commander gave me some information. The captain gave me some stuff they wanted done. Matter of fact, the rope climb. Colonel, you remember Colonel Castor being real big about the rope climb?
Yeah.
S method, exactly. He goes, Gunny, I want every platoon. If I come, you got a week. I want every platoon on this bay in our battalion doing the S method by next Saturday a week. So I had to go down and get the CDI, and guess what? It works. The S method actually works. They were all getting up. We're talking first phase. We're getting up, and I actually had a couple Marines at the battalion staff that weren't able to get up ropes, and we got them all up the rope. The S method, exactly. He was real big on that. So that was the kind of stuff. He also had, he just had certain things he wanted done. I enjoyed working with Captain Lindsay, the host of this show. I really enjoyed having his support because that's what we need out here. All right, Captain Lindsay, and then I also had another captain, Captain Siebenthal, was the company commander in Bravo Company when I first got there for a while. We also did the Ironman down there. I don't know if I did it with you or not, but we did the Iron First Battalion. Always did good. I think we finished first or second second or third a couple times. So, and I'm not going to describe what it is, but just understand, it finishes with 500 sit-ups. So, five. After you would ask Captain Lindsay what we did. He'll tell you it's pretty awesome. It's I think it's tougher than the real mini Ironmans because it's so much course, running, biking, swimming, 40 pull-ups, and then a mile run with a 25-pound pack. This is all together, and then you end up with 500 sit-ups. And we did second or third place a couple times. The drill field was my best, even though I had 2 kids on the drill field, believe it or not. My other daughter was 2 years old, but I had 2 babies born on the drill field, which isn't easy. But believe it or not, I made their birth. Don't ask me how. To this day, I still don't know how that was just by the grace of God. That had nothing to do with me. You always heard on the drill field that, everybody gets 50% divorce rate. You know what? They were on their way to getting divorced already. I'm sorry. That's just the way I see it. I think it makes families stronger because you're gone. First phase, the first 3 weeks, I was 100-hour weeks. Plus, every third night, you stay all night. So, and then, grass week's a little easier. Third phase, not much easier, but, they're hard hours. And then you get a week off sometimes in between. The key is, and this is the key. This is kind of a funny story. You stand duty every third, maybe if you're lucky enough to have a 4-man team, you stand duty every third or fourth night. Well, not in our company, but another company, this one drill instructor was telling his wife he had duty every other night, and he had a 4-man team. So basically, one of the nights he wasn't going home to his wife, and she found out about it. Well, yeah, that's going to end up in divorce. You bet your ass it will. All right, he was not going home. He just whenever. I thought I was pretty good about separating the drill field, except for the frog boys in first phase. You can't get rid of that. But I thought I was pretty good, and I tried to teach the other drill instructors, and most of them did a good job about keeping your drill instructor life away from your family life. After the drill field, I went to 15th MU. 2.5 years. I think I left before they went to Somalia. They offered, I was a gunnery sergeant, and you remember 91, 92, Cold War's over. They were offering people, actually for the first time ever that I know of, they were offering enlisted personnel separations pay, a lump sum. And so before we deployed, Sergeant Major come by my desk and he goes, "Hey, Gunny, did you look at this, what was it called? VSI, it had a name, it was a nickname. Separation, but anyways, it had a nickname, I'll go with VSI. Did you look at that message yet?" "Sergeant Major, I'm not interested. I got 16 years in. Why would I leave? 16 and a half years. I'm not interested." He goes, "All right, you should look at it though." And he did this for like a month. "Gunny, you really need to look at that message." So then he calls, oh no, I know what happened. Then, this is 892. He calls me in his office. He goes, "Hey, the master sergeant, first sergeant list is out. You're deep in the promotion zone for master sergeant. You're in the eligibility zone for first sergeant." And I meant this, by the way. Some people don't believe this. I was never one of these ones that wanted to be a master sergeant. I don't have anything against master sergeants. That's just not what my goal was. And I'll be damned if I was going to leave the Marine Corps till I got my goal. And I said, "Sergeant Major, is there any way I can send a message to the promotion board and say, please don't consider me for master sergeant?" He looks up and goes, "Get the hell out of my office. What do you think this is, Hollywood or something? If they want to make you a master sergeant, you're a freaking master sergeant." So anyways, I went out and looked at that message. What it came out to is I was going to get $85,000 in separation pay. This is 1992. That's a chunk of money for somebody, because the number of years I did, it was going to be 92,000 separation pay. And I started looking at it, and I was actually worried that I was going to be a master sergeant. I did not want to be a master sergeant. My goal was first sergeant. It wasn't even sergeant major, by the way. It's first sergeant. So anyways, I went to the sergeant major and said, "How do I go about putting this?" Because you got to understand, you're going to sign that you're not going to join any other. They didn't want you retiring from anything. The separations play, SSB it was. They didn't want you retiring from anything, any service. So when you signed up for that, you signed a piece of paperwork that said you agree not to retire from any other service. If you do, we're going to recoup all that money. That's fine. I won't do that. Well, anyways, as soon as I did it, got out, got my money, stayed here in Vista. I'm in Vista now, have been since then. That was 92, 93. Been in Vista ever since, 30 plus years. And went to the reserves because I wasn't ready to hang it up, and did one mace. I think the one name. It's the equivalent of one meth. Command element staff. I had the company. I was the company. I got first sergeant down there, picked up the company, and did that for 6 or 7 years, and then retired in 1999, and then went on to trade shows after that. I mean, there was a lot. I'm trying to cover everything. There's a lot of things that happened, but basically got out in 99. I will tell you this: in 90, I think it was 99. This is what, 3 years before September 11th and our invasion of Iraq. And then 23rd Marines had an LAI unit. I can't remember which one it is. Can't remember which LAI unit they have. Anyways, I get a call at home. My paperwork's in. I haven't left yet, but I get a call. Captain knows how this works. Promotion boards for staff NCOs and officers. The higher up you get, I was in the zone for sergeant major, and so what happens is a captain or a major, they get 5 books each, and they're supposed to brief the entire board about that book. I get a call from this captain. He goes, "First Sergeant Wheatley." "Yes, sir." He goes, "I'm on the promotion board. You're up for sergeant major." He goes, "I can't guarantee you anything, but pretty sure if you just submit a photo, you're probably going to be a sergeant major." And I said, "Well, got to give you 2 more years, don't I?" He goes, "Yes." I said, "I'm sorry, Captain. I got 3 kids coming up for college the next 3 years. I need to make some money." And you know what? Sergeant major wasn't my goal. I mean, it would have been nice. All my buddies almost everybody I ever worked with ended up being a sergeant major, but I have some first sergeant friends. And it wasn't because I didn't get it. I didn't stay around for it. Otherwise, I would have been a sergeant major. Matter of fact, I probably would have been in the reserves. I probably would have gone to LAIs and been to Iraq a couple times. So sometimes fate works in your favor. I would have gone in a heartbeat, but I ended up retiring and went trade show after that. Let me talk about those of, first off, I understand we like to bust each other's chops, but this idea that these young kids are weak or whatever, you haven't been watching them, all right? I don't care if it's Marines, whatever, but I'll talk about Marines. They're training just as hard. They're not getting phone calls in boot camp. Stop passing that crap around. That ain't happening. And now it definitely won't be happening. All right. They are trained. I would stand. Let me put it this way. I would stand side by side with any Marine out there right now. And I was in 75 to 99, and I would have, they're Gen Z. I know that. I know some of you have a bad opinion. Not all Gen Zs like that. I'll give you an example. I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s when I was in school. And do you remember the hippies and all those, that crowd from the 60s and 70s? Those represented my generation. And we all managed to survive, all right? So are there Gen Zs out there that are, they're the ones screaming and yelling and all this, burning our flag and stuff? Yeah. You need to remember this. The majority of the younger troops in the military right now are Gen Z, and they're doing their freaking job. I can't tell you how many times I've heard from people saying, the Marines, I saw a video from a French officer, said, if you're ever, this is Afghanistan, if you're ever in a firefight and you need help, you better hope the Marines are coming. He goes, because if you call the Army, if you call your own French forces, if you call the Brits, they're all like, okay, we got to get everything together. And they ask, they want, where's your coordinates? How many are there? He goes, you call the Marine, they say, we'll be there, on the way. 5 minutes, give us 5. He goes, hey, you better hope you have an American in your unit because they will respond. And that's true. This old corps, new corps, that was one of my chants when we were running. Old corps bullshit, new corps bullshit, one corps, our corps, hardcore Marine Corps. Right? And I believe in that. I really do. A lot of us didn't go through the crucible. I didn't go through the crucible. I went through some pretty heavy shit, but I didn't go through the crucible. The crucible is a unbelievable test. And besides, and I've said this before, you're going to be, as drill instructors, we made them basic Marines. The staff NCOs and the NCOs in the Marine Corps make them Marines, not us, not the drill instructors. It's the staff NCOs and NCOs in the Marine Corps. at their first unit. I don't care what their MOS is. It's the leadership they get when they get out there. Yeah, we got it. We narrow them down and get some good recruits out there. But I would stand side by side with any of these young people today in a heartbeat. And I'm going to get some weird comments about this. Oh, they're soft. No, the one I laugh about is recruits nowadays have ACOGs with sights. All right, they're firing from 500, and you do that with iron sights. They don't have to. Just like we didn't have to use bow and arrows and spears. All right, they don't have to. They're going to train with the weapon that they're going to use, and that weapon happens to have a sight, a scope. Give me a break. I mean, the Israelis came through when I was there. I'll get to the issues in a minute, but the Israeli military came through in '86, I think it was. They wanted to see our RKD course at Essen Range, which is where we train recruits. And I stood there and watched them. They were talking to the PMIs and the officers, and they said, this is one of the best courses on training basic marksmanship we've ever seen. Now, we went to combat courses later, which you need to do. But how good are you going to be in a combat course if you don't have basic marksmanship down? I mean, I don't think there's any service in the world, even with the ACOG or without, I don't think there's any service in the world that trains 70 kids out of one platoon on how to shoot a silhouette size in the heart from 500 meters. Just doesn't happen. I mean, my wife was in the Navy. She says she was at 25 yards. I said, okay, were you throwing rocks? Or, anyways, so the young guys, young men and women today, they're doing fine. And stop busting their chops. There's a couple things that really, actually three things. One is those families that lose their son, their daughter, their Marine, their airman, their sailor, the Army, that lose somebody due to training exercise, or they lose somebody due to friendly fire, which happens a lot. Not as much today, but a lot of you don't know. 40% of World War II casualties were friendly fire. 40%. All right. Now it's gotten better with GPS, but I'll give you an example. I had a captain with me. He was my series commander for the other side. He was a combat engineer, and they do live fire exercises in 29 Palms. And he was out there with his platoon. They took 2 rounds of live fire in their platoon. 3 of his men died. All right. Are they any less heroic? Are they any less? Is their loss any less significant? I guarantee you, to the family, it's not. So my point is, it doesn't matter, and I would tell this to every mother and father and brother and sister and husband and wife out there, it doesn't matter if they die in the service of this country, we honor it. The Marines honor it. The services honor it. I don't care if you're a mother, father, brother, sister, we honor it. We honor them because they died in the service of this country. And it doesn't matter. It does not matter if they died in combat. If they died, when I was 15th MU, we lost 2 guys, and we weren't in war until the end. We lost 2 guys. One got ran over by a 5-ton truck because he didn't chalk it correctly aboard ship, and another one I can't remember what the other reason was. But two lance corporals died. Is that death any less significant? Of course it isn't. It's no just because they didn't rush a machine gun nest. My point to all the mothers and fathers, especially the mothers, your son or daughter is honored. All right? We honor their death. We honor their service. And that's all I want to say, because it's just important. Corporal Tillman got killed by his own people. So what? I'm not trying to make it insignificant, but they didn't know it. He didn't know he was being killed by his own people. They didn't know they were killing their own people. And they were both sides were being heroic. All right, I don't care if somebody gets killed on a rollover from a truck. All right, they were serving their country. They were serving. So the families, I want to tell all the families, don't. Your son or daughter died in the service of this country, and we honor them. And that kind of goes in line with 22 a day. We talked about that, the captain and I. 22 a day, there's some misconception about that, by the way. 22 a day is not 22 combat vets that are in their 30s or 20s. It's not. It's a mixture, but I'm going to tell you right now, there's a good portion of these 22 a day that never saw combat. And a lot of them, enough of them, are 50 and 60 years old and never saw combat. They may have seen things that got in their head. That Lance Corporal that got run over by the truck, his two best friends were there. I guarantee you they live with that for the rest of their life. I guarantee you they live with that. And I've always said this many a time, and I believe it. If I could say anything to those that are out there struggling, first thing I would recommend to families, if you've got a veteran that is even remotely acting like they're having problems, sit down with them. You're not going to be able to talk to them, but sit down and, hey, do you have any buddies that, any friends that I can get in contact with, an old corporal, an old first? I'll talk to anyone you want. Give me the name and number. I'll call them. But do you have any friends that you have the telephone number for, or a way to contact them? Get that information. Store it in your phone. If you start seeing them really demonstrating something bad, get that person on the phone with them. I will guarantee you. A good portion of them would never do anything. All right? Because all they need to do is hear from somebody they know. And the other thing I'll tell you about the 22 a day, it's not all combat. As a matter of fact, a good portion of them are not combat related. They're guys in their 50s or 60s, and maybe they're getting a divorce. Maybe their son died, and that's compounded on top of something else that's going on in the military. There could be a lot of reasons. And the worst thing you can do with them is put them in a loony bin for a week. All right? Try, as much as possible, try and keep a list of their friends and telephone numbers, and try and get them on the phone. And don't ignore it. If somebody's acting differently than what they normally do, get somebody involved. If you go to church, call your chaplain, your minister. If you just call the local VA on your own. Got to be careful though, because sometimes they'll get carried away and do some things. But bring in the old friends. Another thing about the those that are, I don't call it PTSD. I told the captain this earlier. I don't call it post-traumatic stress disorder. I call it PTS because it is not a disorder. These young men and women are seeing things that you can never, ever put in a movie. They've seen buddies blown in half. They've seen friends with no heads. All right. They've seen that they've gone into, like the Battle of Fallujah. They go in with 3 buddies and come home with none. All right. It's not disorder. It is not a disorder. How can we call? I know the psychiatric community would be like, "Oh, shut up. You're not qualified." Yeah, I think I might be, just a little bit. It's not a disorder. They've been doing it from the United States standpoint. We've had people that couldn't deal with their activities in combat since the Revolutionary War, and World War II. They called it shell shock. Before they called it combat fatigue. There was all kinds of names for it. All right, it's still the same damn thing. And many World War II vets had it. You guys have been talking to World War II vets. I bet they get emotional. Because they're dealing with it too. And it's not PTSD. It's PTS. Not sorry. That's just it's one of everybody's got a pet peeve. That's one of my pet peeves. I don't call it a disorder. It is not a disorder. It's post-traumatic stress. And there's a lot of reasons for it. I will tell you what I think personally. My experience is the biggest reason. It's called survivor syndrome. Why did I make it and nobody else made it? Why me? Why me? Especially 10 years later, maybe maybe an anniversary is coming up. You run across a picture of one of your buddies that was blown in half. And it's going to come back. And now I'm going to tell you right now, we need to do better in the Marine Corps and the military about talking to these kids when they come out of theater. All right? Somebody made a good point the other day. In World War II, when they came home, they were aboard ship for 30 days. They were able to talk to each other, say, "Hey, man, keep in touch with me, and we'll do this and we'll do that." They talk to each other. A lot of times now, they put a battalion on a couple of planes, and they're home in 24 hours. And they're back in their house in 24 hours. No decompression time whatsoever. And that's The survivor syndrome, I think, is one of the biggest reasons we're losing people. And it could be 20 years later. And it doesn't have to be combat. It could be, I think the captain told me, one about he knew where the truck rolled or something like that, if I remember right. That helicopter. I know I lost two very good friends in a helicopter crash in Okinawa. All right. And I know of other ones that have lost friends in, like the 101st Airborne or any airborne unit. When they do, let's say, a division drop, which they don't do often, but I think anybody that listens to this that's airborne will attest will verify what I'm saying. If they do a division airdrop, they expect to lose 2 or 3 people through, because you got to remember, division drops 18,000, 12,000, whatever it is. They expect to have 2 people killed, but they have to practice it. What do we used to say? The more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. And it's the truth. You have to practice division drops because the division is going to be called in sometimes. So they expect to lose 2 or 3, let alone the injuries. And that's why I laugh. I'm dealing with an L5 back injury now. It's like, the drill field didn't cause that. Oh, okay. Yeah, right. I just laugh. So the 22 a day, we need to get involved with that. I don't know. One of the answers is the first sergeants, the company commanders, they need to get out there and kind of talk to their troops as they get back. And you know what? I think the first thing that should happen is, because there's a lot of Marines that could still do active duty, even if they have, minor PTS, it may not be as bad. They should be allowed to be retained and do their job. You can tell, all right? The ones that are bad, even the ones that are bad. I don't think we should turn them over to the VA until they're completely let the active duty side take care of them and get them to at least a position where they can deal with things. My opinion. I would like to see a series, and not just civilian psychiatrists, but across the country, have a lot of pro bono, or I don't care if the government pays for it, have a lot of pro bono psychiatrists that work with these people, all right, and have them go through military PTS training. Because if you're a civilian and you're dealing with a guy that lost his buddy, you're not going to understand what he's saying. Oh, your Sigmund Freud shit will tell you so much, but you're not going to understand. So I think that they should have to sit down and be trained in that. But I think we should have a series of these psychiatrists across the country. They can be called in an emergency or as they come home, and we shouldn't let them off the base until we know that they're good. So PTS, it's not going to go away. I don't care. It's not always related to war, and it won't be. Another thing that really gets me going is this idea that a Marines that served during non-combat times are less than a Marine that served in combat. The Commandant of the Marine Corps said the combat action, and this is going to piss some people off, and frankly, I don't give a shit. All right? The Commandant of the Marine Corps said the combat action ribbon has nothing to do with being a Marine. And I'm telling you flat out now, that has not. It means something. I'm not taking it away. But you're no better or no worse than anybody that didn't go to combat. I'll give you an example. I've done this before. I think I did this on Urban TV or Urban Valor. Marine joins January of 1945. 18 years old. He's going to go, probably did Iwo Jima, did Okinawa, and he's probably done a couple other smaller battles along the way. Makes it through World War II. Decides he's going to re-enlist, stays for another, 30 years. So he's going to do Korea. He's going to do World War II, Iwo Jima, and Guadalcanal, and Okinawa. Huge battles, by the way. He's going to go into Korea and do the Chosun Reservoir and some of the other fights that we were involved in. So he's going to do 2 or 3 years of war in Korea. Then he's going to turn, again, he's doing 30 years, which means he doesn't retire until 1975, this young Marine. He's going to do he's doing 30 years. So then he turned around and did World War II. He's going to do Korea. And now he goes to Vietnam for 2 and 3 tours. The Tet Offensive, the Battle of Hue, Quang Tri, numerous. Of course, he'll be more senior then, but he's still there. And there's a lot of casualties in Vietnam from mortar fire and everything else. So anyways, by January of 1975, he's been through 3 wars. All right? Now let's take another young Marine, as a PFC, joins in January 1975. Just after this old dude quits. He joins, takes his place, January of 1975. More than likely, and let's say he does 30 years, more than likely he will retire in 2005. All right. More than likely, if he's lucky, he might have got to Desert Storm, which was, the ground war was over in 48 hours. All right. He would have been at he might have been in Panama or Grenada, which again, they're like a cax. They were over so fast you didn't even know what hit them. So he might have been in those, and more than likely he wasn't. That's all. Is that his fault? Did he do something wrong? No, he didn't. He would have been in the very first part of the Iraq War, but by this time he's a master gunnery sergeant, a colonel, lieutenant colonel, or a sergeant major, and not getting involved in the. He might be there. He might even get a combat action ribbon, but more than likely not, because I think we went in 2003, a year and a half. You know, he probably didn't see anything. So one was in for 3 major wars for 30 years. Another Marine did 30 years. Didn't see shit. Not his fault. Doesn't make him any less a Marine. We've got, I understand how we bust each other's chops when we're in a social media or whatever. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because you're no better. I'm going to tell you right now. You're no better, you're no worse. A Marine is a Marine. And it has nothing to do, Commandant of the Marine Corps said the combat action ribbon has nothing to do with your title as a Marine. And actually, when I did that on Urban Valor TV, I had a lot of Marines get on there and said, thank God somebody finally said it. Because I was feeling so guilty. I only did 4 years. I didn't do any. There was a couple on there that said, I did 5 years in the Marine Corps during the height of the war, and I never saw anything. And then he goes, I never saw it. They said, I never saw anything. That's not their fault. Unless you ran to Canada, it's not your fault. All right? If you stayed down here and served, it's not your fault. So that's one that always irks me when people do that. I'm telling you right now, if you served in this country, in any service, you've done your job. And stop letting people try and put you... that's nothing. You've been doing World War II vets. You'll know better than me. Very few of those that actually have been in combat ever brag about it. Very few. They'll tell you a story.
The guys with Purple Hearts, some of them too are like, oh, I'm just a normal guy. I'm like, no, sir. You are not a normal guy.
I happen to get shot. They'll tell you I happen to get shot.
Anything, they're just like, yeah, what you guys just said, I'm doing my job. They don't think that they're any extra special by having a Purple Heart, which...
Or the Bronze Star, or a Silver Star. Some of the most humble people you'll ever meet in your life, Elizabeth, are Medal of Honor winners. They really are. And they're the ones like Sergeant Dakota Meyer. I know him and a couple others. They're the most humble people you'll ever see. As some of these, the Medal of Honor winners. Because I question, if somebody gets on there and bragging, I did this, I question whether they did it. I'm not going to, I don't do stolen valor challenges on social media because I can't prove it one way or the other. I can't stand people that do. They've used stolen valor because they disagree with me politically. Oh, you're stolen valor, you're not a first sergeant. Oh, okay, all right. Sure, I'm not. I'm going to start a podcast once a week for a half hour. I'm not going to do 3 hours. Personally, I like to stick to one topic, get that out, go over it, and then move on. In other words, somebody doesn't have to listen for an hour and a half to hear what I'm going to say. Title of the topic, get it done, and click, you're done.
Yeah, Mark, so I'd like to know, well, you have a lot to offer my generation. What would be one thing, over the years that you would say served you well and wanting to pass that on to the younger generation?
You need to keep your eyes open for a mentor, okay? I've had great mentors in my life. My dad, my grandfather. And in some cases that won't be. It might be your mom in some cases, all right? Keep your eyes open for mentors. And I will tell you the same thing I told my kids. I remember when my daughter was working at Mama Stella's at SeaWorld. She hated it. They didn't use her. She's a smart kid. She was 16. She hated it. And she came home and I told her, you know what, kid, understand you can learn more from bad leadership or bad managers than you'll ever learn from the good ones because they'll show you what you don't want to do. All right, and yes, you'll get stuff from the good leadership, but you'll learn more from bad leadership or bad managers than you'll ever learn from a good one. So find a mentor, football coach, a school teacher, your parents. I know not all parents are going to be the best. Your grandfather maybe, and I'm going to tell you this, and I firmly believe this. You're looking at a guy that in high school, I flunked 5 out of 6 classes my sophomore year. Wasn't stupid at all. Matter of fact, and this is one of my mentors, Mr. Cook, was my chemistry teacher my sophomore year. And he pulled me off the side towards the end of the year. I was getting an F in his class. He goes, Mr. Wheatley, how teacher calls you Mr. Wheatley, you're in trouble. Mr. Wheatley, you're not stupid. And I've heard you want to go in the Marines. He goes, but if you keep this shit up, you're not going to get in the Marines. They don't want non-high school graduates. You need to get he said this, you need to get your head out of your ass, get caught up, and graduate in 2 years like you're supposed to. 5 out of 6 classes I failed. The one class, this is going to shock you, right? This same teacher was my chemistry teacher, which I got an F in. He was also teaching a class called political science, or Cold War history is what it was. And that's right down that's the shit I love. So I was in that class. I was getting an A+ in that class. I was the highest one he had in that class. I actually had people from chemistry that wouldn't talk to me, that were sitting beside me during the quizzes so they could copy. Because that's what I enjoyed. And the reason I got the 5 out of 6 Fs is because I wanted to join the Marines. This is 72, 73. And I think it was before we were completely out, but I wanted to join the Marines and go to Vietnam. Yeah, I'm that stupid. My dad wouldn't let me. I was 17, I think, and he wouldn't let me. So I said, I'll show him, I'll get Fs. Yeah, I sure showed him, didn't I? So there's a reason for this. I don't care how bad you've done in school. So anyways, I buckled down in junior, senior year. When everybody else is, a lot of times in your senior year, a lot of kids are going home at lunch. I was good. I never took summer school, but I was doubled up on everything. I had to take a class during lunch a couple times. Still graduated in time. I think my standing was 205 out of 230. My point, the reason I tell you this story is that don't ever give up. I get kids all the time. I didn't do so good in high school. Go to community college. Go get some grades in community college. Let's say you're like me and got some F's and some C's. Go to community college, bust your ass, get straight A's or A's and B's. That's all they'll look at. They'll just see that you graduated. They don't care if you get good grades, and find a good mentor. They don't care. I'm going to name the 3 guys that taught me how to be a chief drill instructor, which led to my career. Gunnery Sergeant Al Gorley. I don't think he was down there when you were. Gunnery Sergeant Al Gorley, Gunnery Sergeant Ralph Drake, and Gunnery Sergeant. I can't blank. I'm blank. He's my favorite guy.
Gunnery
Tondo. Don't live in your past. Forget your mistakes. Learn from your mistakes. Find mentors. The biggest thing is never give up. Don't ever quit. I don't care what you do. You've got to find the energy and the level of confidence. And sometimes that'll be through the military. Sometimes it won't. But the young people, don't listen to the people. Here, one of my favorite sayings is don't follow the herd. Make your own path. Don't follow the herd because they're going the wrong way. Well, something I would encourage, especially let's say we're talking to high school kids, I would encourage every high school kid to get into some kind of team sport or team event. I actually required. I wasn't, I did a pretty good job of not taking my Marine persona home much. There was times I let loose. But I told my kids in 7th and 8th grade, I want you to play a team sport. I want you to be in band. I want you to take a foreign language. For obvious reasons. The band is like taking a foreign language. It also teaches you a discipline. Taking a foreign language, it puts you a step above. And being on a team. And my kids weren't always the best at the team they were on, but they were on the team and they learned team sports. So those are the 3 things I would do. And find yourself a good mentor. I'm going to tell you right now, and I've had good. My dad, my grandfather, First Sergeant Harmony Nelson, those 3 gunnery sergeants I told you about, including Gunny Antondo. I just saw him a little while ago. Those CDIs, I was there 4 years. We never had an NJP. All right, like I said before, we had some that had to go get a different job because they were doing stupid stuff. But I didn't ruin their careers by putting them on NJP. So, mentors are important. I had a good mentor when I was in the civilian world, and one thing I would tell veterans, and this doesn't have to do with being successful. Actually, it would be. Every veteran, I don't care if you're a grunt, a mortarman, a machine gunner, if you're we don't have tankers anymore, thanks to that commandant. I don't care what you are. Understand you have skills. You have skills that employers are starving for. You show up on time. You go above and beyond what they're telling you to do. Usually, you're usually pretty well groomed. I've seen some Marines that aren't, but for the most part, you show up on time. You're going to do what you're told. You're going to have initiative. I don't care what your MOS is. Go out in the employment market and just tell them I'm here to get a job and I'll do the best you've ever had. Don't go. I'm a grunt. I don't know what to do. Yes, sir. I was a sergeant in the United States Marines. What'd you do? I was infantry. That doesn't matter because I want to know your job. Don't let the fact that you weren't necessarily a college graduate out of the Marine Corps stop you from being successful. That's a biggie, I think. Yeah, that's a biggie. Have confidence too.